Hi, everybody. I'm Meryl Stewart, CEO of Marketing and Business Solutions. I wanted to talk to you today about something that I had presented on recently. I was teaching about marketing strategy, and we started talking about post-pandemic marketing trends. And although I don't know that we're quite post-COVID, there have definitely been some trends that have happened in the last 12 months that I think might be helpful as you're looking at ways to increase business and maybe refine the business that you have. In addition, I have some, bits of information for nonprofits. So stay tuned for that towards the end of this segment. But let's get into this. So post-pandemic marketing trends. There's a few things that the people really have been focusing on in the last 12 months. The first is customer experience. Customer experience has been more important than ever, especially if the customer hasn't been able to come into the store or you haven't been able to see somebody in person, and a lot of it's been virtual. So looking at your business practices to determine if the customer is really having a good experience. Is it easy for them to access your product or service? Is it easy for them to communicate needs that they have or problems that may come, to light in the process? And what does that customer service piece look like? Not just what are they experiencing from a purchasing and engagement standpoint, but then how are they actually being helped if there's a problem? So a lot of companies are investing in that space. They're looking at their staff, they're doing trainings, they're also looking at their content and how a customer might interact with a brand's social media, their website, all those kind of steps that are in place for a customer to get to the point of sale. The second place that businesses are investing is adjusting their messaging to be relevant. We're doing this a lot. We've had a lot of clients in the last 12 months come to us because they need to update their messaging. They need help talking about what they do a little bit different, maybe to stand out, because from a unique standpoint in the market, everybody's competing a little bit differently in the space for, that same customer or that same sale. So how we're tweaking messaging and how we're looking at strategy a little bit differently is something that we're working with clients on. It's also important that that message is relevant. So there are a lot of businesses and nonprofit organizations that might have talked about themselves a certain way, but in the last 12 months, they've really had to pivot that messaging to become more relevant as to what's happening in the community or what's happening with their customers or what's happening in their industry. So looking at your messaging is another great place to focus on. That's something we're seeing that trend in. To make sure that you're talking to your audience in a way that is connecting with them and then getting them to take that action that you're looking for. Another area that people are looking at is their audience. In some cases, their audience may have shifted. Maybe they had initially, one kind of customer base, but now they've had to maybe change operations or something else within the business that has caused them to shift the audience as well. So re-examining your audience, if you haven't done it, it's a great time, not just to make sure that the people that you're talking to and connecting to are still the right customers, but also to make sure that you're using channels where those people actually are. Because there's been such a shift from a virtual perspective, it's just important to take a look at that and make sure that you're hitting the marks with the audience that you're trying to reach. The fourth thing that we're seeing a trend in is an increase in digital engagement. It shouldn't be any surprise that most of us are all online, doing business, but that digital engagement piece is really important. Your content on social media, the content in your videos, your webinars, your online experiences, everyone's expectation is turned up a slight notch on what that experience should be because we're inundated. We're looking at our computers, our phones, our watches to make sure that we're connected. So looking at your digital engagement, making sure that your marketing is on point, but also that if you're not doing it, that you start doing it, that you're having an increased presence in that digital space. A couple things that have not changed. Customers are still responding to ads. So the good news is if you spend money on advertising, especially online, customers are still responding to that. And so that is a trend that really hasn't fallen away. In fact, probably in many cases, it's ramped up quite a bit. And the other piece is data-driven results. Companies have always looked at data-driven results to determine whether what they're doing is right or on point, but that's something that people are looking at more so now than ever. So if you don't look at your data, or if you're an organization or a small business that maybe is dipping their toe into digital engagement, start looking at some of the statistics, some of the data, the reports that come along with those systems that you use to really see what's happening with your customers so that you know how to adjust things moving forward. For nonprofits, there's two things I'll share. One is we're seeing a lot more collaboration. I know that seems like a big word and sometimes it's a scary thing, but we are seeing nonprofits pull their resources together, especially if their values are aligned, maybe their processes are aligned, but that they can leverage resources from each other in order to get something done that they couldn't do on their own. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. I know they're not always easy, but there is value in coming together to solve a problem. And to many funders or corporate partners, they're looking for that. They're investing dollars in the community to try to make them stretch as far as possible to impact as many people or whatever cause it might be. As a nonprofit, it's a great opportunity for you to look at what you're doing to see if there's a way to collaborate with someone else to make an even deeper impact with those dollars. And the other thing that we're seeing with nonprofits is really leveraging their email marketing. Many of you may not do email marketing. Maybe some of you are just treading water to make sure that you can just post on social media, and that's completely understandable. But take a look at email marketing. Even if it's something that you can't do every single month, it's more important to be consistent about when you do it than how many times at first. Get into the groove of it, get familiar with the systems, and then determine what capacity you have to continue using it. So I hope that was helpful. I look forward to you joining us again for our next discussion. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section. You can also subscribe on our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do, visit www.mymabs.com. It's mymabs.com. Thanks so much for joining me.